I'm out here doing a little squirrel hunting today. I was going to show a few different ways to call in squirrels. Squirrel hunting isn't that difficult, but especially out here on public land, uh, the last few years what I've noticed is it's more effective. I'm more effective at squirrel hunting if I find a good spot and I sit down and call to them. Then it's more effective to do that than it is to uh, walk around and scare them off. Generally, they out here on public land, they're just like deer and turkey. They feel hunting pressure too, and they tend to scatter out of your way. Uh, Generally speaking, out here on public land. So I'm just going to show a couple different ways I've picked up that you can effectively call in squirrels. I've got several different calls that I use. Here's a collection of them. This one here is obviously an electronic call, and I bought that more for predator hunting, and it has a couple of settings on it for squirrels, and it does work, but it's not my preferred method of calling. The advantage to this is, one, it's electronic, so all I have to do is basically start the call, then set it down beside me, and it's hands free. But it's not my preferred method of calling, but it does work. Another thing you can use to call in squirrels is actually a couple of coins. Obviously these are quarters. I think it's pennies also that will work, and are actually sound a little more natural, but they're obviously smaller, and with my auto worker hands, it's, well, I mean, even these quarters are painful to use. But the important thing is, whatever coins you use, if you look at the edge of them, see, they have to have ridges on the edge. If it's smooth, they won't work. But basically, how you do that is you take them and you rub them together. Rub the edges together. Let me see if I can set this up so I can actually show y'all. You take the coins, put them like so, and you just rub them together like so. Okay, what you're doing there is you're mimicking the sound of a squirrel, like trying to crack open a nut to eat or whatever. The coins, in my experience, it's very quiet, and so in my experience, the coins are more effective. Like if you've actually seen a squirrel and he's run around on the other side of a tree, or if he or she ducks into a hole or something somewhere, you can use the coins and do that, and basically get it to stick its head back out, or to come back around to your side of the tree or whatever. But it is very quiet, so as far as, for me, that's a close range thing. And even if I know there's a squirrel in the area, that's still not my go-to, because it is so quiet. But if you're actually trying to call in a squirrel to the general area that you're at, in my opinion, the coins are too quiet for that. The sound just doesn't travel very far. The other calls I have over here are these two right here. Yes, this is an empty shotgun shell. This is 12 gauge. You can use a 20 gauge shell, but 12 gauge works a little better. And with this, what you're doing is, again, you're mimicking the sound of a squirrel trying to crack open a nut to eat. Okay, and so what you do is you take the empty shotgun shell. If you can see the slits I've got cut in it, take a knife and you cut 3 slits, just 3 or 4 slits around the shell, not all the way, but halfway or so up, and then you can just kind of work it with your hand. It makes the sound of like a squirrel cracking open a nut. And that sound is louder than the coins is, and that's why I prefer that. And these two, I use these in conjunction with one another. Okay, and this is the most effective means I have found for calling in squirrels, is to use these two together. And when you use these, this mimics the sound of a squirrel cracking up on a nut. This makes actual squirrel sounds. And use these together, and I use this more than I use this. Okay, this one right here is a store-bought call. It is a Nightingale 4-in-1 squirrel call. It may make just about any sound a squirrel will naturally make, including the little squeak sound that they sometimes make, which I've actually only heard once for sure, on one occasion. And that's where you use that little part right there. You put it in your mouth and you breathe in, and it makes a little squeak sound. The rest of it, you squeeze this part of it, and it'll make any sound, basically any sound a squirrel will make, including a squirrel in distress, if you want to use it for predator hunting. I don't use it that way. I have other calls that I use for predator hunting. This I use for squirrels. And I don't use predator in distress. I do use a squeak, but very sparingly. But what I'll do is I'll just run this call a few times, like that, and then I'll pick up this one and make the sound of a squirrel cracking open a nut. And like I said, I use this one more than I use this one. I use them together, but I use this more than this. And in my experience, that has been the most effective way that I have found to actually call in squirrels. And all of these, they will work on both gray squirrels and fox squirrels. I've called them both using all of these methods. I would imagine it would work on other species of squirrels as well, but all I have in my area is gray squirrels and fox squirrels, so that's, I have no way of testing it on other species. In other parts of Tennessee, we do have the small little red squirrels or whatever, but not in my area. So the fox squirrels and the gray squirrels are what I'm experienced with in hunting and calling. So yeah, that's that. If you are, squirrel hunting is a great way to get into hunting. It's where a lot of us hunters start, is with squirrel hunting. It's a lot of fun. There's plenty of squirrels all over the place, and it's fun shooting. It's good sport, and it's great eating. But if you're interested in getting into hunting, but don't necessarily want to jump right into deer or turkey hunting or any other big game hunting, squirrel is a great place to start. And these are just a few ways that I found that are effective at calling in squirrels. So get out there and have a good time.